Man, women, will, money, effort, blood, sweat, and tears. I had the trouble, I had 21 hours on the plane, so 255 pages, that roughly, I had a lot of time to read this book and I could read it entirely. So with your permission, I'm going to share with you some of the stories that are in this book. Foundation is not only about numbers, not only about money. It's basically about stories that reach people's hearts. And the first story, which is right the first paragraph in this book, relates to a country that you know very well. It goes like this. The heat was oppressive, 43 Celsius at the shade, if there was any shade. For 50 or 75 meters on the dusty road, unpaved, women dressed in saris waited patiently in line, holding their kids. The first of them offered her 6-month baby to the white, middle-aged guy to take her on his lap. Gently, he parted the lips of the little child and placed 2 drops of a polio vaccine on her mouth. When returning the kid to her mother, he made a prayer in silence, thanking for protecting her against polio and premature death resulting from polio. Of that night, hundreds of images of babies that he had helped vaccinate on that day flooded his mind. And he asked himself, how does a lawyer from California, an engineer from Brazil, and a banker from Scotland went to a small village in India to vaccinate against polio? The answer was Rotary. And better yet, the answer was the Rotary Foundation. So this story summarizes everything that we try to do in the Rotary Foundation, and I'm particularly proud as a trustee to be part of this illustrious team. I'm not worthy of it, but I work very hard to deserve it. We have some challenges in the Rotary Foundation today, which I would like to share with you. Came out of my mind, I did an explanation, a presentation in Rio last September, I think, the Institute. The first one is to end polio. It's a kill or die situation. We either kill polio or polio will kill Rotary. We'll kill our credibility, we'll kill our hopes, we'll kill everything we've done in the last 30 years. And I'm sure this is not going to happen. You will not let it happen. We will not let it happen. We will prevail. Rotary and the Rotary Foundation will win this battle. What is just, according to the latest report I got on my email Monday, just before I left for India, is limited to 72 cases this year. 50 some in Pakistan, 15 in Afghanistan. The last 2 confined places where we are fighting polio. We're not only fighting polio, we're fighting a war. We're fighting ignorance. We are fighting tribal rivalry. We are fighting extremism. Polio is not an easy battle, but it would be much easier if we didn't face the other problems of our modern world. And to be able to end polio, we Rotarians that have already invested out of our own pockets, your pockets, these major donors that had just been awarded are going to be funneled into the Rotary Foundation for that purpose. And I'm responsible, fiduciary, for the good investment of that money. I am accountable for that. But more important than putting our own money, we put somebody else's money in there. 10 times as much. We invested $1.3 billion out of our own pockets, and we convinced the US government to put $2 billion. And we convinced Bill Gates to put almost $1 billion. So we have the power of advocacy, because we have the good cause. And we are good attorneys defending that cause. This is our main asset. But this is why I believe we will end polio. Because we can convince people that our fight is worthwhile. That our good, doing good for the world, which is our motto for the Rotary Foundation, will succeed. So the first challenge we have is to end polio. And it's near sight. We're walking towards the end. Next year, during the Atlanta Convention, for the centennial of the foundation, we are holding a big festivity. I think it's one of the reasons I'm here, to learn with you guys how to make festivals. You guys are happy. You remind me of my own people. No, Brazilians are happy, good-hearted. No, love to dance. We love to dance also. So we have a lot in common. The more we travel, the more at home you find yourself. But back to the Rotary Foundation. End polio first. Second challenge. We have to find a new corporate program. I'm on the programs committee for the Rotary Foundation this year. Much has been said and done, and a lot of reflection has been exercised as to what the next corporate program should be. There are even people who question if there should be another corporate program. Some people miss the good old times quotes when we just dedicated ourselves to community problems. As if polio was not a community problem. I particularly support the idea that we must engage ourselves, given our strength, our learning process, our partners, our fundraising capacity that we have developed over the years, that we should really invest in a second corporate program. And I think we are a majority in Rotary. Well, we're going to be humble, and we're going to ask people like yourselves, the grassroots Rotarians, to share with us your views on what the next corporate program should look like. We have a good indicator. Ravi loves indicators, you know that. Nagesh knows that. He loves indicators. A good indicator is the amount of money we are dedicating to some of the 6 areas of focus today. It's not set in stone, but it's a guideline of, what some of the demands coming from bottoms up are, which gives us a sign, a beacon, where we should look at. Second, find a new corporate program will take us some years. The board of directors decided back in 2005 that we should develop a commission and criteria for finding a new program for Rotary. 11 years after, we still are treading. We still are walking. We still are discussing and debating which the next program should be. And that reminds me of Rotary as being an ocean liner. We're not a small, fast boat. We're not a speedboat. We're moving 1.2 million aboard a ship that speaks how many different languages? Here in India, 90, right? I see you guys talk all the time, and some of them don't understand, so I feel like one of yourselves sometimes that I don't understand anything. Some guy said, well, when people from Karnataka are talking amongst themselves, I cannot understand. I speak a different language. So this is the diversity we are dealing upon. Diversity of languages, of cultures, of habits, of food, of everything, of mindset. So Rotary has to deal with this. The third challenge we have is financial sustainability. We have to be responsible. The Rotary Foundation has exceeded, through the cooperation and collaboration of you Rotarians, all of our targets. We were supposed, do you remember when we had the permanent fund? Years ago, they were called permanent fund. Now it's endowment fund. They keep changing the names, you know. Once we learn the names, they change it. Like in life, once we learn something, life is already gone forward and we have to change again. We set the goal for $1 billion in permanent fund back for the centennial. We already reached that and passed that. We were 1.2, almost 3, 1.3 billion. That's how much we have in cash and assets at the Rotary Foundation. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of assets. We have to invest that very carefully. And with the success, the incoming success of the Global Grants Program, do you know how many grants were granted last year on the global grants? 1,078. You know what's the projected number for this year? Around 1,400, 1,400. So you're growing, you know, you guys are learning how to do projects. You're improving your skills, you understand the concept of sustainability on a project that does not have necessarily to do with money, but with people engaging and keeping the project forward as we unplug our button. This is the concept. We want people to be self-motivated, self-sustained. We don't want them dependent on us forever. That's the secret of a good capitalist entrepreneurship approach. We want people to be independent, to be self-reliant, to be self-confident. And as we develop those programs, we only have what? With multi-club projects, we have probably 2,000 clubs involved. We have 35,000 clubs in Rotary. If we are successful, and I think we will be, if we engage everyone, there's going to be lack of money because we don't have money for the project. Our project today averages $66,000, which is a good amount of money. But we have to think bigger. We have people who want to donate. If we engage and if we present bigger projects. Isn't that amazing? Some of our connections in the US, for instance, a fellow trustee of mine said, I've got a donor who wants to donate $15 million US, provided we can structure a good enough program. One project. The Coca-Cola Foundation told us that they are dedicated to projects empowering women. That's their focus. And they'll give us money if we make projects with that content. Otherwise, money will not flow. The Ford Foundation said, your projects are too small. We think ourselves as big bucks, huh? We have assets of 1.3 billion. Do you know how much Gates has? $46.8 billion. That is money. 35 times our amount. The Sheikh of Dubai has $10 billion in his private foundation. That's his side money. Besides owning Emirates and everything. So we have the credibility to tap into that money because we have the connections on the ground. We have you guys. We have 4,000, and according to Nagesh, 5,000 at the end of this year, Rotarians working on 3190 to get involved into projects. Who has 5,000 volunteers working for nothing? And besides paying something out of their pockets. How much are you guys worth? Have you ever thought of that? But when we think of money, the 1.3 billion, we never consider your time. We have doctors, we have engineers, we have attorneys. We have business people with an army, private army like Nagesh, 10,000 people working for him, who are giving their time for nothing, forsaking time they should be dedicating to their businesses, to their practices, because they think service above self. If we keep that into account, if we calculate the amount of money, I think we would pass Bill Gates Foundation. He wouldn't be able to pay all his money, all of our dedication, and all of our time, I think. How much money, how much time do I have? Huh? Tell me, you, otherwise. About the Rotary Foundation, I could speak for hours just telling stories. So bear with me. On page 110, to show you that I read the whole book. Otherwise, you wouldn't believe it. April 1979, at the end of his first term as president, Clem Renouf traveled to Seattle, where his host showed proudly 2 Navy ships that were being built for the Australian Navy at the cost of $100 million. Renouf thought of a campaign for the 75th anniversary of Rotary to raise $12 million to finance the 3H programs. And he thought, what could we do with $100 million? Instead of the Navy ships for war, for battle, for killing, what if we had $100 million for saving people instead of killing people? On his way back to Chicago, he saw an article at the World Health Organization had, for the first time, amassed $100 million to eradicate smallpox. You remember the only disease mankind has ever eradicated before polio, smallpox. When he returned to the headquarters in Evanston, he called District Governor John Sever, asking, is there any disease Rotary could help eradicate? He was a doctor, a scientist, a researcher with doctorate in microbiology. He had dedicated all of his life to the research of vaccines, and he was, at that time, director of infectious disease of the National Health Institute in Washington, D.C. Answers from Sever were very quick. In 16th of May, 1979, he wrote a letter to Renouf. If there is only one vaccine that could be selected for the 3H program, I would recommend the vaccine against polio. So 1979, that's when it all started, technically speaking, out of a guy who was deeply rooted in this business. No, we were very professional from the beginning. This guy took care of the National Infectious Disease in Washington, D.C., overlooking the problems of the World Health Organization in partnership. So we started off on the right foot, and we've been on the right foot ever since. That was a great moment in our history, and this book is full of great moments. The fourth challenge, and last one in my mind, big macro challenges, is how do we partner? In India here you have a incipient but very promising grant called term grants. At the TRF we are using you as guinea pigs to this program. This could be the seed to a new form of grant that takes care and consideration of partners' interests, which do not always coincide with our interests. And by ours, I mean the Rotary Foundation interests. Because we are, we are an American-based institution. We hold accountable and responsible for money invested. If there is corruption involved and we do not detect it, I could personally go to jail, which is not a very promising idea, especially in the US. And, you know, we have to be very careful about your money. It's not my money, it's your money. So I have to be doubly, triple care with what we do with your money. And yes, we do recognize sometimes we are kind of slow, sometimes we are kind of bureaucratic, sometimes we are too legal. You know, we tend to look very carefully. A couple of weeks ago at the Board of Trustees meeting, we were examining the corporate social responsibility in India, your project. A 58-page report by Ernst Young covering all the different aspects and responsibilities involved in developing such a program. Very promising, but we have to do it very carefully. So we have to learn how to partner without waiving our procedures, without jeopardizing our principles, without compromising our financial resources. We do have to partner, and we do have to negotiate. We're learning that. There are some collaboration agreements going on, being signed, being analyzed, and whoever injects $1.5, $2 million, $5 million in your projects should have the right to say something about this. You know, the destination of that money, the procedure to handle that money, the accountability, the numbers, the reports. So this is what we are dealing with right now in finding partnerships. So basically, end polio, find a new program, find a sustainable financial future for us, and find new partners. Those are, according to my mind, our biggest challenges. And then another story that I think it's familiar to you. You probably know it, but it's in the book, so I think it's worth reading. The Rotary Club of Chandigarh used a foundation grant to help with the program Heartline, which performs heart surgeries in kids from India and Pakistan. When 200 dignitaries got together to celebrate the 100th surgery of Heartline, a 12-year-old patient from Pakistan raised his hand and asked to speak. And he said, "People frequently ask me where I come from. What should I answer? In one country I was born, in the other country I received life. One was India, the other was Pakistan." That was Raja Sabu speaking, your former president, my personal friend, speaking at the Board of Trustees in 1996-97. That's another story to summarize everything we do good for the foundation. And I'll leave you with a quote by an author called Edward Everett Hale. That's the last page of the book, 255. So I read it all. Or at least I read the last page. I'm just one, but I'm still one. I cannot do everything. Still, I can do something. And although I cannot do everything, I won't refuse to do what I can do. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. I think you're one of the most knowledgeable person on the foundation. I will definitely take all your advice and suggestions and implement in our district. Get connected with other part of the Rotary. Now it's time to request my friend This Secretary Kumar Swamy to propose formal vote of thanks for the first session.
Very good morning, friends. It's my great opportunity to thank all the Rotarians in Goa for the first session and interfaith prayer. A well begin is oft done. I firstly thank Rotarian Flight Lieutenant KP Nagesh for the first session. Thank you, sir. And I thank Mario Cazar, Rotary International representative. Thank you, sir. I thank Rotarian Nagendra Prasad, committed chairman, district conference. Thank you, sir. And I thank for the wonderful interfaith prayer, Rotarian Fazal Mahmood, Zarir Bata, Meera Prasad, and Gertrude D'Souza. They have given a wonderful interfaith prayer. Thank you, all of them. I thank Rotarian S.N. Ramesh and team from Rotary Bangalore South. They have given a wonderful action singing introduction of our district governor. Thank you for all the Rotarians. I congrats the lucky major donor. Let the numbers is clear, and let me clarify the names. I congrats them. And lastly, I thank all the dedicated Rotarian and friends who are gathered here. Thank you one and all.
Good morning, everybody. After that absolutely scintillating speech by the RI President's representative to this conference, Mario Cesar, I'm sure that we've got a lot of interesting ideas. We move on now into the second session of the day, the youth service session. So may I please request to come on stage Rotarian Karthikeya Reddy, the Director of Youth Services, Mr. Charles Ma, who is our Speaker, and Mr. Anil Kumar. In the meantime, may I request the District Governor to please hand over a memento to Kumarana. While we're waiting for that, I have a request. How many of you have got your cell phone with you? Let me tell you, I forgot mine in the room. So, how many of you have got your cell phone with you? Please raise your hands. Everybody? Wonderful. So, any cell phone that rings, let me share something interesting that I found out from our RI President's representative last night, Mario. He says he's got the world's biggest collection of cell phones. So what we will actually do is that we will add to that collection. If the cell phone goes off in the middle of the program, we will actually take that cell phone and we will donate it to him. I don't know how you're going to be able to take it to Brazil, but we'll try and figure out a way for that too. Sorry, sir? So please put your cell phone in a silent mode. You know, the problem with a cell phone is a very interesting thing. Now, your ringtone is your own ringtone. But the problem is when your ringtone goes off, you are in a panic. And everybody sitting around you is wondering, why did your phone go off? It's like when the neighbor's bell rings, I try and peep out to see who's come to his house. It's akin to the same thing. So my suggestion is, please put off these, put it on a silent mode or whatever you can. If there is a call which is urgent, may I request you to please go out to the hall and take your cell phone, because there can be nothing more problematic or irritating than hearing your phone ring. Our next speaker performer at this function is Mr. Charles Ma, and I request District Secretary Satish Madhavan to please do the honors of introducing Charles.
Good morning, friends. Charles was initiated into the sacred world of Bharatanatyam by Guru Srimati Vidya Shimladka. He further honed his skills with some of Bangalore's finest teachers to finally come under the guidance of Srimati Purnima Ashok, disciple of Padma Bhushan V.P. Dhananjayan and Shanta Dhananjayan. He has trained briefly with Srimati Priyadarshini Govind. His individuality, a distinct style that is linear with masculine grace and a flair for expression, set him apart. He is an upcoming soloist, and his performances are popular not only with the connoisseurs of art, but also with the young audience that is often seen at his performances. He is very often invited to speak as a motivational speaker and often conducts workshops for young people across the country. Some of the platforms he has been invited to speak have been the TEDx series, the Volvo Leadership Summit, Ink Salons, NID, Christ College Art Workshops, seminars, etc. He now works on his own, and his choreography is creative, young, and is constantly attempting to find modern identity to the traditional art form of Bharatanatyam he practices. Teaching is his passion, second only to dance. He is a committed teacher and imparts the art form to the young children at his dance school, Natya Prabha. He has also learned Kalaripaitu, Mridangam, Carnatic music, and Natu Angam. He is also currently learning Kathak at the Natya Institute, Bangalore. Charles has attended